All right, as we are beginning lesson 7, substitution, a couple of things you want to review. How do you know a system has no solution? When we're going to answer no solution, we want to remember that it had to be a false statement. And a false statement, what that really means for you is you had two numbers that are not the same that are equal. 0 equals 2. -7 equals +7. False statement, we want to write down no solution on our paper. When we are looking at infinitely many solution, that's when you actually had a true statement. So please make sure you're writing this in your notes. And a true statement would be something like 0 equals 0, or -4 equals -4. As you look at that practice, the next step down, we want to keep in mind, what does our answer look like? That's our x and y. And in this case, we know y equals x plus 3. That means we're going to replace that in the first equation for the y. So I am going to write 2x plus, make sure you're copying in your notes, 2. But I don't want to put y, I'm going to put the parenthesis, and in the parenthesis goes x plus 3, and then I have to continue with equals 38. I am distributing 2x, don't forget the last term in the parenthesis, 2x plus 6, not 3, equals 38. We are now subtracting 6. Hopefully this is starting to jog your memory on solving equations. 32 equals 4x. Dividing by 4, x equals 8. We are halfway there. We got to find y. If we are solving for y, this is the easiest one. Second equation that says y equals x plus 3. We're going to replace the x with 8 plus 3, and y is 11. And you think, all right, I have this big quiz on this. Tomorrow, how do I make sure I'm doing it right? This is where you do the check. If we are checking, we're going to go to the first equation. 2 times 8, which is 16, plus 2 times 11, which is 22. 16 plus 22 gives me 38, and it checks because that's what it was supposed to equal. We are now looking at the second equation. Not as nice, but we can look and see, do we have a variable that has a 1 with the variable, 1 times the variable, that has a coefficient of 1. And if I'm looking at that, the easiest one to solve for, 1 times the variable, is going to be my x here. How do I get that x by itself? I'm going to add 1. So x equals, I'm going to put the 2y first, so 2y plus 1. And again, this is what I'm writing in a parenthesis, and I'm putting the parenthesis in the equation where the x is. So now when I go to write, keeping in mind my answer is an ordered pair. 7, I put the parenthesis down. What's in the parenthesis for x? So if we are looking at this and we're multiplying out, one of the things we got to be really careful for is when we distribute as we are looking at this. So as you are distributing, it is 14y plus 7 plus -2y equals 1. We are now subtracting 7 from both sides. And as we subtract 7 from both sides of our equation, we are now looking at 12y, 14 minus 2, is equal to a -6. We are dividing both sides by 12, and y is a -1/2. We have a -1/2. We're going to solve for our other variable. Now, in this case, what I want you to make sure that when you're solving the problems today, and we're not going to do all of them in your worksheet, but I do want to talk about the next 2 story problems, is that we do go back and solve for x. So making sure you do solve for that x, and in this case, we're going to go to that second equation. So if I look at the second equation, I'm going to put 2y equals x minus 1. Well, 2 times a negative 1/2 equals x minus 1. 2 times a negative half comes out to be a negative 1. That equals x minus 1. We're going to add 1 to both sides, and x equals 0. Now again, we could check this one. We're going to take a look at the next two story situations because that's soon going to be coming up. Tons of story problems. Again, first thing we want to think about in this one is what does x equal and what does y? And the first thing they talk about is we have adult tickets to a play. So let's put x equals adult tickets. It then says we have children's tickets and they cost $15. So y is going to be our children's tickets. Now sometimes you will see people use the variables that start with like A for adult and C for children. We want to think of the number of tickets we need to buy. If we're thinking about the number of tickets, it says there's 11 people in our group. So that's adults plus children has to equal 11 tickets. Then we want to look at the cost. What is the cost of our tickets? This one we are going to solve today. We have 22 for the adult, so 22x, plus 15y equals 228. And the question said, how many adults and how many children are in the group? So if we look at this problem, sorry about that, if we look at this problem, we want to now solve it. So easiest way to solve this is maybe put x equals. What would x equal? 11 minus y by subtracting y from both sides. This is going to be in our parenthesis. We're going to put that down here, substitution. As we substitute, 22 times 11 minus y plus 15y equals 228. This is where you might need your calculator out. 22 times 11, if we are multiplying that, comes out to be 242 minus 22y plus 15y equals 228. If we subtract the number 242 from both sides, we're going to get a negative number here. So please take out your calculator. 228 minus 242. Negative 22 plus 15. That's going to give us negative 7y. And this comes out to be a negative 14. So far it's kind of looking good. We're going to solve this by saying, and it doesn't make sense to have a negative number. And if negative 14 divided by negative 7 means we have 2, in this case, 2 children's tickets. Right? Y was equal to 2. How many adults? Well, remember, x plus y equaled 11. So 11 minus 2 gives us 9 adult tickets. So we had 9 adult, 2 children. Does that make sense for the cost? So here is where we would plug it in for our check and say 22 times 9 plus 15 times 2. Does that equal 228? So please check it on your calculator to make sure. We have one more problem that we're going to look at that I want to show you before we look at your homework and what I'm going to assign. How do you translate this geometry problem into solving a system of equations? So I want you to take a look. We know this is a 90-degree angle. So what do we know about x and y together? And the key thing we know in a triangle is all three angles add to 180. So what we do know is that angle x plus y, since this one is 90, must equal 90. That's just from our picture. Then we want to go up here and it says one acute measure in the right triangle is 4 times. So we're going to start with x, one acute angle. They're both acute, so it doesn't really matter. So please write x above this one. 4 times the measure of the other. This is our y. So x in this case is equal to 4 times the measure of the other angle. Oh, how nice this is. X equals 4y. We are substituting. Instead of writing x, we're going to put 4y plus y equals 90. 5y equals 90, and we are dividing. And y equals 18. So this is 18 degrees. What do I know the other one has to be? Well, I have two easy ways to solve. I can subtract 18 from 90, or I can say x equals 4 times 18. Or I could have gone here and said x has plus 18 has to be 90, and I could subtract 18. Either way, x should be equal to 72 degrees. Now, as you look at this assignment, I was looking at the G7 worksheet, and I think if I'm going to have you do these problems, I think what we are going to do in G7 is we are going to do 1 to 9 odd and 10. Because I do want you to do those two multiple choice questions. If you want to do any of the evens for extra practice, please right now in front of the evens put EX for extra. Do not do them until you have done all of the odds. You have to do 9 and 10. If you do get the one solution, I need to know what it is. So if you get an X equal or a Y equals, I need you to finish solving the problem. If you get infinitely many or no solutions, I need to see that also. Hopefully this made sense, and I will see you tomorrow.